Welcome to the Lights Lounge, your weekly home for all things Las Vegas Lights FC. We'll be here every single week in 2025 on Tuesday afternoons. You can join us for a deeper dive into everything that happens on the pitch, including match previews, match analysis, alongside a new guest every single episode. On Saturday, the team came up with a huge win at Cashman Field over Orange County SC, courtesy of a late night Pickering goal in stoppage time. And then up next, the Lights are traveling to Kentucky for the second away match of the year at Lexington SC. Alongside me today to analyze both of those matches and talk a whole host of other topics, I have CEO Shawn McIntosh. Shawn, welcome to the Lights Lounge.
Thanks for having me. What a lounge. The vibes.
Yeah.
Absolutely immaculate.
Yeah, we love it. Hopefully we can relax, have a little chat about some games, talk about some stuff coming up, talk about your journey through soccer. So let's jump straight into it. First, if people aren't familiar with you, they haven't seen your face before, what do you do for the club?
I am the Chief Executive Officer here at the Las Vegas Lights, running all things business operations.
Okay. What does that look like? What does your day-to-day look like? You say, okay, I run out all things business operations, but for people that don't know how a club actually runs outside of what happens on match day on the field, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, what doesn't it look like would be the better question. Look, it's when I'm not on a podcast with you, here in this moment, it's working with every single department across the club. That could be working on what our ticket pricing is going to look like, everything down to working with our head of entertainment on tailgates and what are we doing to engage our fans more on social media, what are we doing to make our atmosphere better, everything from that to interviewing to fill roles that we've got as a club that's quickly growing and growing. So, and everything under the sun. One day it's working on kit designs. Could be that to, again, everything down to what we're doing from a ticket sales standpoint. So,
all right, you got the Vegas Origins kit on today. We'll jump into that a little bit later. I've got that as a talking point. But first, let's talk about what's happening on the field. The hot topic right now is the game against Orange County on Saturday. This will come out on Tuesday. We're talking on Monday, so it's pretty fresh in everyone's brain. You're, for the most part, in the suite in the premium deck that owner Jose Bautista put in ahead of the 2024 season. So you got a front row seat to that night Pickering goal. His celebration was towards you, so you could see it. What was the experience like? What was the atmosphere like over there when he scored that goal?
Yeah, I mean, look, you never want to save your moments till the very, very end. It's just a ton of anxiety. We're as much as we are here working for the club, we're all very much fans of this team. And so, look, it's the second 90th plus minute goal that we've had this season at home. This one with the stamp for all 3 points. It was tremendous. Obviously, to come off the bench late in the game, to be given that one opportunity and to pounce on it like that, plus the celebration, his family in town.
Yep.
It was really fun and it was special and it was really cool to be right there and see that kind of up close from where we were sitting.
Let's break that goal down really quickly. From my point of view, the way that it rolls is the ball goes back to the Orange County goalkeeper. He kicks it long with, I think, Knight Pickering pressing him high, and it falls to Shawn. We were talking about this earlier today. Shawn Smart, not Shawn McIntosh. It falls to Shawn Smart playing right back, and he's kind of got a decision on his hands because he's got a player pressing him in front, a player pressing him to the side, and instead of just heading it out for a goal kick with 30 seconds left in the game and seeing it out, he actually takes it down with a really smart chest touch, comes inside, keeps the ball, then it goes to Malik Howell. Malik Howell steps up, plays it to Gennaro, and then the highlight begins that everyone has seen. Gennaro plays an excellent ball in behind to Knight, and Knight finishes it off with practically his first touch of the game. I just thought that was backing that highlight up a little bit is really instructive on everything that goes into a goal. It's not just that Gennaro Nigro pass to the Knight Pickering finish. It's everything that comes before it as well.
Yeah,
so,
100%. And look, it's about capitalizing on those moments. It was a match that wasn't particularly pretty on both sides. And this is a game where you have to capitalize on chances and moments. And to me, it shows a couple things. One, our ability to take advantage when we need.
Yep.
Again, this is the second time this season, late in the match, where we need a goal, that we're able to find one. And I think it shows the mentality. You've got, Knight coming off of the bench after not having played this season, really a kind of a tough and challenging spot for a young player. He comes in, has one moment, he has to deliver, he does it. You have Gennaro, who wasn't particularly on his game. It wasn't his best game. Same for Shawn, wasn't his best game of the season. And overall, the team just didn't quite have it. Like technically, it wasn't on. But that's the sign of a really strong team when you're not on and you're able to find a result. But in particular, two of the guys in that play, Shawn and Gennaro, having big parts to play in that moment, thought it said a lot about the mentality. And for us being really tough to beat, tough to break down, just be a team that doesn't lose matches. Being a team that doesn't lose matches means you'll be in a position to win matches, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting stat there. The team has the lowest expected goals allowed in the league at 0.6 per match. If you're not familiar with that metric, that like expected goals allowed and expected goals scored, basically every shot that's taken gets assigned a value on how likely it is to go into the back of the net, and we're allowing the lowest quality chances and the lowest amount of chances across the league, which I think says a lot about how head coach Antonio Nocerino has the team set up to not lose games. He's said that a lot in some of his post-game media availability. He's like, if you can't win the game, just don't lose it. Because not only do you get that point, but you also keep your opponent from getting 2 extra points for having the full 3 points to win the game. And I think you're seeing that play out right now. And just giving yourself an opportunity right at the end of the game for Knight to come off the bench and grab that winner.
Yeah.
And I think for Knight too, an interesting journey for him. The home opener, Knight Pickering doesn't even make the squad. He's not even on the bench. Then he makes his way back. He's on the bench. Finally gets his opportunity in the 4th match of the game. He's got to be sitting over there just itching to get in, and delivers straight away. He's a young player. He does have a lot of games previously from Memphis 901 in this league, but I think it does say a good bit about his mentality to take those lumps early in the season and be able to come in and deliver.
Yeah, 100%. He's shown that you got to be ready, given the circumstance. Always be prepared, and it was there, and that's how you're going to earn more and more playing time, is showing up in some of those moments, and can't question it. He showed he can.
Yeah, definitely. And then some of that expected goals allowed stuff as well. Antonio Nocerino with a different formation this time around. He's spoken quite a bit about wanting his team to have the same principles, but able to be tactically flexible. So every game before this, he's come out with a back 3. We've seen him shift to a back 4 late in a couple games, but he came out with a back 4 to start this game. Malik Howell back after kind of an early season injury, partnering Elias Gartig in the center back role. What did you see from that tactical flexibility that the team's starting to show?
Yeah, I think the flexibility is one of the key things when you think about what makes a manager really successful, and the ability to understand situations, matchups, the pressure being placed on you from an opponent. And we've seen the tactical flexibility already. You mentioned we've gone into every match aside from this one with a back 3, coming out of matches or coming out of the half and switching to a back 4 has allowed a little bit more attack when needed. I think I go back to the Oakland match where Oakland very clearly was not going to punish us, so it gave us the opportunity to be a little bit more flexible in our attack. I think this game as well, credit to Antonio not being somebody who is stubborn, who sees a moment, is willing to be flexible, understands what's happening, and this was one that I look at. Orange County, I think, wasn't intent on scoring goals. Like they came into this one very, very happy with walking away with a draw. So I thought it allowed for us to shift that, play a little bit more open. And while we weren't quite there individually, I think we were best set up in the way Antonio had it. And I don't know, I think ultimately you saw, I think we were the better team. I think we were the team that clearly wanted to win. And while we gave up very few opportunities to Orange County, I think was a fair result.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, a little behind the scenes moment. I'm our director of communications, so I manage all of our post-game media availability. I'm walking Antonio to his post-game media, and we're doing a little Italian to English translation, trying to figure out the word he wanted, because he felt the game was really balanced. What we landed on, he called it an equilibrium game, where everything was nice and balanced. It could have gone different ways, but at the end of the day, his players delivered that game-winning moment through night. But I do think we can also acknowledge that it's a good step forward in terms of dominating the game, having a higher possession for the first time this season, for what the possession stat means, but definitely taking the game to Orange County rather than letting the game come to you. I think a positive step forward for this team as they figure out their identity under Antonio. And I think another quote from the post-game press conference that I found really interesting from head coach Antonio Notarino, he says, quote, "The performance for me is not excellent. I prefer maybe to play better with the ball, risk more when you arrive in the last 25 meters, maybe 1v1, shoot, combination," end quote. So I think he's looking for that as well, just for his players to express themselves and take a couple more risks when you're in that final third. It's okay if you make a mistake, but at that point just needs a little bit more to raise the amount of chances.
Yeah, as long as the risks are coming in the final third and not in our own side of things. But I think that's right, and I love the confidence that Antonio has, that he's instilling in our players to go out there and attack, especially in those 1v1 situations. And that's where, when I look at just the way he has us set up, you can see the intent. You can see some of the patterns of play that are there. It's just sharpening some of those moments and some of the individual opportunities and moments, maybe we're missing. But I think it was very clear, like, we had an intent, and we were the team that had the ball at the end of the match as the time was winding down. We've talked about this as the position that you want to be in, and we went direct, and ultimately it paid off.
Speaking of trying to build over time, this was the team's fourth match of the season. Up next is away at Lexington. This is a team that's going to be playing their 8th match of the season. Well, it's only going to be our 5th match of the season, so they're maybe in a little bit of a different spot because they entered in the first round of the U.S. Open Cup, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So they've already played 7 matches. They've got 5 points from 5 league matches, which is okay, but they haven't won since they won in their home opener. Former Lights defender Joe Hafferty with a once-in-a-lifetime goal to win that game for Lexington. But I think an interesting thing there, right, where even this early in the season, we've played so many less games than this Lexington team because of the Open Cup and because they didn't have a bye week. And some of those things take time to come into effect.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's with anything, right? Like, you want to be the final product, you want to be polished, but that's just not the reality. And our preseason is short. And we're playing games both at home, we're in Coachella. There's players that haven't all come in. We've got players still yet to be here on visa and injuries. And so I think when I take a step back and I just take a look at how we're playing and the results, are there. You got to be really happy and confident with the build up to where we're going to be. And again, really, I think this will be a good test for us because it is a side that is a little bit more that has had more opportunities to find who they are, and we're still early into this thing.
Yeah, Lexington, for some background on them, played in USL League One last year, actually came up to the USL Championship ahead of this year, so not really an expansion team, but still kind of putting things together, which I guess we can go ahead and talk about it, is an interesting little window into promotion relegation, which is something that the league has said that they're going to institute alongside a Division I league that would be on par with Major League Soccer. Any thoughts on promotion relegation? Just take your business hat off right now. Take your CEO hat off. As a fan, as someone who loves the game, what do you feel like promotion relegation would add to this league?
Yeah, I mean, look, tons of thoughts. I think this is an opportunity for this league in particular. Like, we know what this league is right now. We kind of understand status quo, where we kind of fit into the landscape of U.S. soccer. This is an opportunity to take that step up and, hesitate from saying rival Major League Soccer. That takes time, right? Major League Soccer wasn't the Major League Soccer of what it is today or where it wants to be in 20 years 5 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And so, but I do think this gives us an opportunity, and it isn't about competing with Major League Soccer. It's about doing the best thing for this sport in this country. Give the people what they want. And fans of football, soccer, calcio, football, whatever you call it, have been asking for this forever. Me being one of those fans. So I'm thrilled. It puts major stakes into every match. Soccer is all about community. So this really gives communities an opportunity to buy into their local team with those stakes, the storytelling that goes along with it, the ride, the ups and downs, everything that comes with a really great movie. You know, when you're watching the emotions of it, the script, I think this league now has a huge opportunity. And I think it's an opportunity for a lot of fans to put their money where their mouths are, right? True. You've had fans saying for many, many years that they wouldn't support MLS because of, it's a closed system until they see promotion relegation. I love Wrexham because of that story, right? I mean, you would push back on fans that would say the quality of MLS, and it's like, okay, well, you support Wrexham. Like, let's be honest, the quality isn't there either at that division. Well, they've got promotion relegation. Yeah. Well, so do we. Yeah. Right? So as a fan, I'm excited. As a CEO, I'm thrilled. Yeah. Again, this is huge. So we've given the people what they want. This is a real opportunity, real opportunity for us to connect locally, and then just to do something that Major League Soccer had been, be honest, like unwilling to do. And so I'm really, really pumped to see where this takes us. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting in the American soccer, or the American sports landscape, just in general. It's a very common talking point across your major sports leagues. Any fan of a perennial under contender or underperformer can tell you that they're tired of watching their team tank. And this introduces some jeopardy to those scenarios. It introduces some pressure, and it forces coaches, sporting directors, owners, teams to be delivering every year. You don't get to just take a year off and we're halfway through the season, it's not going our way, so we're just going to transfer some players out and hope to get a higher draft pick and we'll make a run next year. So I think within the American sports landscape, this being a very unique thing could be a really interesting differentiator for USL in general. Yeah, look, it rewards ambition. And that's the flip side of it too. Right. It doesn't just punish underperformance, but it also rewards the people that are ambitious, that want to put money into it, that want to put resources into becoming better teams. Yeah, right. And let's call it out for what it is. Those that kind of are anti-promotion relegation are probably the ones that aren't ambitious, right? Like, they're looking at what happens when I get relegated. For us, proud that we have an owner in Jose who's ambitious. He wants to see this. He wants to push forward. He wants this club to be the club that Las Vegas can be proud of. So we stake our flag in the promotion relegation hat. Like, we want to see this. We're excited for it. We want to be one of those clubs that's competing at the highest level and competing for trophies. So for us, I mean, we couldn't be more thrilled. Yeah, and I guess credit to the owners as well, because at the end of the day, the owners do have to pass something like this, and they did pass this measure both for Division I and for promotion relegation by a supermajority. So credit to them, getting something done, and for them, we talked about fans putting their money where their mouth is. This is owners putting their money where their mouth is as well. So really interesting. But until we get there, the only way for Lights fans to see their team compete against a first division club is through the US Open Cup. So let's turn our attention towards next Wednesday's home game. So not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday on the 16th, Las Vegas Lights FC hosting Chattanooga Red Wolves SC of USL League One in the third round of the US Open Cup. Shawn, give me some background on what the U.S. Open Cup is and what it means. Yeah, look, U.S. Open Cup, such an important tournament for this country. The oldest tournament in this country. It is one that gives the opportunity for all leagues, all teams to join into this tournament with Major League Soccer to compete in something you'd equate it to the FA Cup, to Coppa Italia in Italy. And so I think this is a tremendous opportunity to showcase different venues. What I love about it, having spent time in Major League Soccer, from the MLS side, getting to travel and see and showcase talent in cities and venues that wouldn't otherwise have a chance to host an MLS team. So I think this tournament is incredible. I think it's an opportunity for us, when looking at the lights, to go for hardware. Like, we're, again, ambitious club, and we don't see any reason why we can't go deep into this tournament. And when you're talking about a tournament that is single elimination, there's always a chance to scalp an MLS team. And so for us, we're looking forward to that. First, we got to handle our opponent here at home in Chattanooga next Wednesday. But I think this tournament it's important. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some background on the format of the tournament this year, so there's already been 2 rounds of the tournament. The higher the division you are, the later you come into the tournament. This is a tournament that's open to not just professional teams, but also amateur teams. There's only one amateur team remaining in the competition, El Farolito, which is named after a Mexican restaurant in the California area, which is just incredible stuff. But the way it worked out this year was the top 16 USL Championship teams as of the 2024 standings entered in the 3rd round. The bottom 8 had to enter in the 1st round. So that's why Lexington, as a team that was coming up from USL League One, has already played 2 Open Cup matches. Then the top 8 USL Championship teams were predetermined to host. So for us, having finished in the top 4 in the West last year, we come in and have the ability. We know we're hosting in the 3rd round. It was just about the draw, who we were going to get. It's Chattanooga Red Wolves SC. And then in the round of 32 is when the MLS teams come in. Importantly, it's not all of the MLS teams anymore. It used to be all the MLS teams anymore. Those politics are a conversation for a podcast that is not this one. But then round of 32, round of 16, quarters, semis, finals. It's an opportunity to win a trophy. And with less MLS teams in the competition, there's more opportunity for your USL Championship teams to start making a little bit of a run. So will be really interesting. You can grab your tickets for that game at LasVegasLightsFC.com/tickets. That is April 16th at home here at Cashman, and then a league game immediately on Saturday on April 19th as well. Okay, let's move past what's happening on the field. Shawn, let's talk about you for a little bit. We've known each other for a couple years now, and I've met people with you. And the common question that you always get is the "where are you from?" question. And that is always a difficult question for you to answer. Why is that?
Yeah, so I'm a man from nowhere. So taking it all the way back, my parents met when my dad was in the U.S. Navy. So he spent 22 plus years in the U.S. Navy. He's from the United States of America. One of his first tours of duty was stationed in Italy, in Gaeta, where my mom is from, where he met my mom. So my mom, Italian. I was born in Virginia, a couple months old, moved to Italy, and from there kind of bounced between Italy, where my mom's side of the family is from, a couple stints here back in the U.S., different cities, to kind of back and forth between the two, where ultimately spent 13 years or so growing up in Italy before I graduated high school in Sicily, in Catania, making my way to the U.S. for university, and have been here since.
I want to pause on that. Just 13 years growing up in Italy. Obviously, you bounce around a little bit, but how does that shape you as a person, having grown up in Italy, but being someone that is Italian American? And how did that shape you as a person and as a man now?
Yeah, no, obviously massive impact on my life. I like to think all positive. You know, it gave me an opportunity just to understand people from different cultures, connect with people. Because I moved so often, found my ability to connect and find a home didn't require a ton of time. You know, I always felt comfortable, but at the same time, I always felt like a little bit of an outsider. So when I was in Italy, I was the American kid. And when I was in the US, I was that Italian kid. Same with my family. It was just the same. When my brother and sister and I were with our American cousins, we were the Italian kids. And then we were very much the American kids with my Italian family. So, you know, I think for me, it just made it easier to connect, pivot, change, always been very malleable in different circumstances and situations in my life. And, it just gave me a really unique perspective on life for me.
And then grew up a Lazio fan. So
that's
a big part of your life, even to this day, as I know you as a person. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, this sport, look, growing up in Italy, there's no escaping calcio and soccer. It's every part of your life. I know this, having spent time with me, but even being around Nocerino, how serious he takes the game, right? It's not a game. And very much for me, it was just, no questions. It was just part of my life, the way we suffered, through losses, or the joy we had in victories, both for our national team. And then growing up, I was a Lazio, and still am a Lazio supporter to this day, because that was the club of my family, where my family is from. So, very much a big part of my life today. It's a routine. As you get older and you have kids, I don't get to spend as much time watching all of the sports I'm passionate about, but the one that is like, we as a family know when Lazio plays, that's on the calendar, and that's kind of my holy time to watch that and share with my kids.
That's amazing. So then you take that forward, you take those experiences forward from Italy, and you come back to America for university, college. If I rocked up to freshman year Shawn McIntosh and told him down the road he'd be CEO of a professional soccer club running the show, would he be like, yeah, that's the plan. That's where I'm headed. So that makes sense. Or would he be like, no way?
No, I would have been like, yeah, figured.
Love it.
Yeah.
Call your
100%.
Shot. Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, I've always been like extremely confident. I know the work that I put into everything I've done in my life, whether it was, education and the scholarships I earned, and, the grades, and kind of just what was important to me. Being in this position, an absolute dream. I didn't know when I went to school. I had no idea what I was going to major in. I was fortunate to get a really good education and go to university, but had no clue what I wanted to do. Again, I came from parents that, my mom was from Italy. She didn't go to the U.S. school system. My dad went straight to the military right out of high school. So for me, I was just trying to figure it out, understand what I liked, what I didn't like. So I spent those first 2 years in school undecided. Got my undergrad, ended up committing to criminal justice and political science. My dad, having spent most of his military career on the criminal investigation side, I kind of leaned towards that and wanted to go to law school, but ended up taking a ton of con law classes and diving into that, and honestly just wasn't extremely passionate about it. Found and started learning about sports business programs, went and got my master's in that field. And for me, there was no questions from the moment I was introduced to the business side of sport and the opportunity to have a career in it. There was no questions what I wanted to do.
So then what's the foot in the door moment for you? Because I think everyone has that story of their first experience working in sports, and there's sort of this old adage that it's a hard industry to get into. There's not that many jobs. So what was that moment for you?
Yeah, look, it is a hard industry to get into simply because it looks glamorous from the outside. And don't get me wrong, million things I love about it. I've been in the industry for over 17 years now. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't extremely passionate and loved it. But it's tough to get into, and there's a lot of people trying to do it. So for me, my foot in the door moment was I got my master's degree, graduated, moved back home. Home was where my family ended up relocating to in Virginia Beach. I walked into the front offices of the two minor league teams that were there, the Norfolk Tides, the AAA baseball team, and the Norfolk Admirals. Walked in with my dad, point blank, asked, "Are you guys hiring? What positions do you have available?" And the Norfolk Admirals, an American Hockey League team at the time, said that they were interviewing for internships, and I threw my name in the hat. I had no need for college credits, had my degrees. Again, stepping out of school, probably a little naive, thinking, I've got a master's degree, I'm going to get the job that I want in the field that I studied. And then it was definitely a fork in the road moment. Got offered a position. The same time I was offered a full-time role with salary for a medical sales company. and I was offered an unpaid internship. And so very blessed to be able to live with my family at the time, work a couple extra jobs to make ends meet. But the support from my family, I was really young. I wasn't married, didn't have a girlfriend, no responsibilities. So I took the unpaid internship and I worked my ass off. For me, I'm uber competitive. So came into a class with a handful of other interns, and I made the decision and was dead set on leaving that internship with a job, and nothing was going to stop me. I was going to come in every single day, and looked at all the other interns as my direct competitors. And I tell everybody, like, once you're in, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
And then you work from there. You work your tail off. It's about the results. It's about how you are as a human and how you connect and work with everybody else. But your resume, what you did in school, none of that matters at that point.
It's out the window.
It's completely out the window. Once you're in, it's about proving yourself to everybody that's there. And I always took the everybody is watching mantra, and just made sure that I worked with integrity and worked my ass off, and made it really difficult for them not to hire me, and ultimately ended up getting a full-time position and stayed there for 4 years and worked my way up to director of operations and group sales manager, wearing 2 different hats in minor league sports. And it was a team that ended up winning the Calder Cup championship right when I left. So I did get a championship ring from my time there mid-season. They went on a 28-game win streak, longest win streak in hockey history, before I made my way to Phoenix for my first entry into major professional sports with the Phoenix Suns. And Phoenix
There's a good trivia. Is that still the record? 28
Should be.
games?
Yeah.
Should be?
Yeah.
There you go. There's some bar trivia for you. Okay, so then a lot of your early career is peppered with like sales, and specifically ticket sales.
Yep.
So just talk me through those like early positions that you had in ticket sales, starting with Phoenix, and how that has shaped you as a well-rounded executive, having that be your entry point into sports.
Yeah, I mean, look, ticket sales and your fans, they're the lifeblood of any club. Walk into any club, doesn't matter what level, single A all the way to major professional, NFL, your highest level. It's all about ticket sales, right? We are here to create a product that our fans are excited about consuming and ultimately purchasing. So it's all about the fans every step of the way. And so a healthy club has healthy ticket sales. And so those folks driving that are really, really critical to everything a club does. And so for me, I really got to spend so much time. It was my every day, like finding new fans, connecting with fans, having conversations with fans. What did they like? What did they not like? Why weren't they coming to games? What were the drawbacks? And consuming that, trying to create solutions, learning so much about every other department, because ticket sales is, as you know, like is connected with every department. Everything we do here, from a social to a marketing to ops, the entertainment value. So for me, it was a really great learning opportunity, just diving into that. And then just from a one-to-one, I spent my day having conversations with people that were fans and people that weren't fans, people that bought tickets and people that didn't. And it just helped me just grow as somebody that ended up being where I am today.
And everyone thinks, I want to work in professional sports, I want to work in professional sports, but the beginning of a career is not the most glamorous start to a career. There's a lot of cold calls, a lot of hang-ups, a lot of awkward moments on the phone. It's not the most glamorous thing. It's not just showing up to the stadium and getting to watch Knight Pickering score a stoppage time goal from the suite. It's a lot of grinding at the end of the day.
So besides the technical skills that I learned, it was a lot of the mentality. It was a lot of the handling rejection, right? It's a lot of the going home being like, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? It's finding, and what I really learned was, making a sale or winning a football match is such a small percentage of what you're doing. And if you don't find joy in the process and everything and the build up to it, you can find yourself really negative. You can find yourself really depressed. You can find yourself hung up on all of the reasons why it's not working out, or the negative. I really liken it to professional athletes, right? Like they're all working really hard to win a championship, but there's a lot of things that aren't fun. There's a lot of things that aren't sexy. The waking up at 4 a.m., the lifting weights, the workouts, the two-a-days, the blood, sweat, tears, the rehab for injuries. And maybe if you're lucky, you win one title your whole career.
Yeah.
And and that moment is so fleeting that if that's the only reason why you're doing it, or if that's the only joy, then it's going to suck. And so for me, I started to kind of shift my mentality and find joy in the process and really find things along the way that were positive, that were fun, that I embraced, that helped me get through moments that are a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice. Let's fast forward a little bit. So Phoenix, Houston Dynamo, Las Vegas Aces, all of those are ticketing positions, director of ticketing, those sorts of things. Then you jump back to the Norfolk Admirals, correct? And that's really your first move into more of an executive role. So let's fast forward to that moment and talk to me about your time back at the Norfolk Admirals, where you were an unpaid intern to start. Now you're an executive. How has that shaped you?
Yeah, it was a full circle moment. Honestly, it was something that was really cool because there were people still there from when I was an intern that were in full-time positions that now I oversaw. So full circle moment, got to run that club. The first club I got to run, I was their chief revenue officer, overseeing all things business related, and then spent 7-8 months there, really driving how they were operating and moving that club forward coming out of COVID. And so, COVID, like for everybody, was life-changing, and it altered the way most businesses ran, and it was no different for a professional hockey club, and had to come in there and shift the way they were thinking and driving revenue, particularly because they were one of the few clubs that had opted out of playing that season prior. And so while the rest of the league was playing games, we were operating as a club without playing games. And so it was really unique. And again, for me, it served me really well because you just take everything as a learning opportunity. And it was a lot of fun being back at a club that was home to me. That's where I started my career, and we got to do some really cool things in the short amount of time I was there for before I got a really unique call and opportunity from Charlotte.
Yeah, and that's the next step, because that's your last stop before you come here to the Lights. It's where we met at Charlotte FC of Major League Soccer. You get a really unique opportunity to be the chief fan officer, a position sort of created out of thin air to be on the leadership team, elevate the fans' voice to that leadership level. Talk to me about why you took that role, why that role excited you, and what you learned from it as an executive.
Yeah, look, the reason why I took it was, one, it was such a unique role. It was in a sport that I am deeply passionate about. It was an opportunity to build something from the ground up, with Charlotte being an expansion club set for their 2024 launch. And a lot of it had to do with, so you step outside, like there are reasons why you apply that are surface level, right? Yeah. All the sexy and fun reasons, Major League Soccer, Charlotte, brand new club, awesome, sport that I love. But then from there, the people have to align, the leadership has to align. And so at the time, the president was Nick Kelly, and somebody that I loved working under, but really great vision, somebody that I connected with, who cared, was so passionate about the fan experience and how he envisioned this role. And so the biggest thing for me was to serve a club and the fans at the same time, to drive a club forward in a way that no other Major League Soccer club was doing. And honestly, outside of that, I don't know that there was any professional sports team that was doing it. So for me, I looked at it as a great challenge, a great honor, something that I got to do that I was really passionate about. This is obviously a business, but I so deeply care about it as a fan too. And I want to do things the right way, and I want to serve this sport in a way that fans can be really proud of. And so I thought it was a really unique opportunity to do that and drive things forward through the lens of a fan. And it ultimately ended up being something really successful that I am really proud of, with the things that we got to build. And I love building things from the ground up. and that was an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I mean, just look up clips of Pepas, Pepsin, Poznan, whatever they're calling it at this point, but a pre-match tradition that started via conversations between you and driven by the supporters groups there in Charlotte, and now it's consistently the most viral moment every single Saturday when it happens at a Charlotte FC match, Bank of America Stadium, and is part of like the really fun stuff that you got to work on and work with supporters on bringing to life. I think that's the important thing here, is that a lot of times you have supporters groups and your most passionate fans that have these great ideas, and they need someone on the inside of the club that can help them execute those things. Okay, I'll connect you to our game presentation director. We're going to play this song to intro you into this thing. Starting to do some of those things here at the Lights, but that's what I find really interesting about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it was being that ultimate connector between what all of our fans were saying. So working really hard with our business analysts on a lot of those post-match surveys. What are they saying? How to improve? What do we take? And which departments am I getting that information to pushing back on things that we were doing as a club that didn't always make sense to our fans, whether that was how can I communicate it to our fans and help educate them so that they understand the business side and the reasons behind our decisions, or vice versa, taking that pushback because it was legitimate and there were real causes for concern to our president, and pushing back on anything that we were doing that we didn't feel great about. So I think for me, it helped me grow, helped me learn. It got me even more connected with different departments, because my day-to-day was working with our social team on things that maybe they were posting that we could change or do differently, or how can we when we put a marketing message out there, how do we make sure it resonates? I was always coming at it from a lens of our fans and making sure to push that voice forward, versus like every club knows that fans are important. Like they know that it is their lifeblood. But for me, I got to be that person in the room, always pushing that forward when it would get lost sometimes.
Yeah, it's easy to forget sometimes. Sometimes it can become a spreadsheet game in the front office, and you just sort of forget that that's the lifeblood. And it's always helpful to have someone in the room that is constantly asking, but what about this? How is this going to come across? Does this, do our fans deserve this? All of those kinds of things. Okay, so then that brings us up to just about the present. You get the opportunity to come to Las Vegas Lights FC. Jose Bautista's bought the team in January 2024, turning around the franchise, and you get the opportunity to come here and be CEO. Why was it the right move for you at that time?
Yeah, there were a ton of boxes that were checked with this one. One, we go back to my passion for this sport, right? And where this sport is going in this country. And I want to be in a place where I can be a big part of driving soccer culture and driving this sport forward. But I got to do that here in Las Vegas, a city that my wife and I both lived in during my time with the Las Vegas Aces. Loved this city. A huge proponent for all things Vegas. We love the weather. We love the community. So a chance to come back here for us made it easier. When you make a life move, and this time we're coming here with 2 kids that we didn't have prior. And so, for us, that made the transition a little bit easier. We knew we were going to be comfortable. We knew we loved the city. We had people here that we loved. And then comes the people that you're going to work for. So, Jose Bautista is the biggest piece of this puzzle, right? Like his vision had to align with what I wanted. He's ambitious. He wants to do things the right way. I want to be a part of a club that wants to do things the right way, that wants to push this thing forward, that didn't just want to be another USL club. We want to be the ones navigating where this league is going. And so for me, that got me really excited. And of course, because he wants to do things the right way, there has to be the right resources invested to do so. And then, he allowed me to bring the right people on board to make sure that we can make this thing really successful. So I think all those things kind of checked the mark, and it gave me that opportunity now to go from being that person that was almost like a consultant to being that final decision maker.
I think that last point that you had there is really interesting, having the resources to build it how it needs to be built. Maybe something that fans don't see is the transformation that the business side of this club has undergone. I think it was a very public storyline, obviously. Put together a roster ahead of 2024. At the last minute, it becomes a roster that reaches the Western Conference Final, and the transformation under Jose Bautista on the field is a major storyline. But starting with bringing you in roughly August of September of 2024, and then all the way through during that playoff run, and then into December, building out an entire staff, because there was very, very little here when you arrived. So talk me through what that fall was like, building out a staff.
Yeah, I mean, look, the staffing piece is the most critical. I've talked about the people, and obviously fans, we know that they're the lifeblood, and it's all about the people. That's no different on our end, on the business side. It is about the people. It's about bringing in really quality humans, but people that operate at a high level. And so this club just didn't have people, period.
Yeah, it was it's not like there are people left and we've replaced them or anything like that. For a lot of 2024, to peel back the curtain, was a couple consulting companies really running things sometimes remotely.
Yep.
Just because, and it's no slight, like there was just zero time for Jose Bautista to turn this thing around, and so the club had to play games and had to sell tickets and had to do things.
You know, he buys a club and the season's right around the corner, and so had to get things up and running. And so the most efficient way to do that was bringing on a couple consultants that came in and operated. But from a full-time staffing standpoint, not a lot of people here. And so where Jose and I's vision aligned was, let's bring in quality people. Let's raise the bar. Let's make sure these people were here in Las Vegas, right? A real commitment to Las Vegas. If we're going to do this right, in order to build the culture that we believed we could build, got to get people committed to Las Vegas, that were here every single day. And so my number one priority was to bring in great people and start building out a really talented staff. And then let's work towards making sure we have all of the technology, the support, the resources, so those great people can execute on their jobs at a high level.
Yeah, and talking about having people in Vegas, one of the first things that we did when we got here in the fall was sitting down and talking about who do we want to be as a club. We came up with 3 principles that we landed on as a leadership group, being Vegas first, being highly accessible, and relentlessly pursuing success. Talk me through what it was like landing on those principles and how it guides just daily decision making for you and the rest of the front office.
Yeah, that was honestly, it was a fun exercise. It was an exercise that I didn't think I would like as much as I did. I generally hate that type of stuff.
Like buzzword type stuff.
Like, I don't know what we're allowed to say. Or like, it's such bullshit. Like, if we're being honest, like most of the time clubs are doing it just to throw it out there. It's maybe on an all-employee like manual handbook that nobody ever reads. It's not truly a guiding light for any sort of club. It's something that they can throw out there. So I was pretty hesitant to go through that exercise, and I was adamant that if we're going to do this, it needs to mean something.
Right.
And we have to stick by it. And, you know, I like to think like I'm pretty principled. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right, and let's actually make it mean something. So it was a fun exercise. You know, I'm big on collaboration. I try to loop in as many people as possible from across different departments, even when decisions need to be made for something outside of their department. I just am big on getting different thoughts, bringing in diverse backgrounds, hearing what they have to say, and then executing. And so this was one of those opportunities. We sat down as a leadership team. We pushed ourselves. Again, what's the type of club that Las Vegas can be proud of, that we would be proud to work for? And then, do we believe this, and do we have the capacity to execute? Is this something that we all are going to buy into? And so it was a lot of fun. I think we landed on some that were really key for us, that have been foundational in the way we move forward.
Definitely. And I think one of those things that we always talk about is the fan experience. Your experience as chief fan officer with Charlotte FC and with a whole host of other organizations and clubs, and how to improve that fan experience when they come to Cashman Field and take in a game, because there is more happening than just the soccer on the pitch. Talk me through that fan experience piece and some of the changes going into 2025, what you might be most proud of?
Yeah, I think we can go back to just some of those pillars. When I think about highly accessible, right, that our fan experience starts with that.
Yep.
So we know in this world that we live in, rising costs, we're not, you just taking the CEO hat off, like us as fans, like I got a family. I want to bring my kids to more sporting events. It gets harder and harder to do that, particularly in the world of soccer, where we were so used to accessible matches, Major League Soccer being your high level that was super accessible. And a lot of clubs are pricing out their fans. Fans that have been a part of these leagues for 20 plus years are getting priced out. Families can't go anymore. And so, I experienced those same frustrations, and I wanted to make sure that we checked ourselves that if we're going to say one of our pillars was highly accessible, how do we make sure that's the case? And one of the first things I did was lower the cost for our supporters. So season tickets being more affordable than they ever were here, and making it really easy for our fans to come to a match.
Yep.
And then when they're here, how do we make sure our players are accessible? How do we make sure that win, lose, or draw, they're spending time with our fans, they're signing autographs? I think that's kind of the first staple when I think about fan experience. It's accessible. Can they come to our matches? And when they get here, is there a connection with our players that they wouldn't find anywhere else here? And then, we sat down, we thought about what are some of the things that our fans, we surveyed fans, we had conversations with fans. What are some of the things that maybe they missed from those first few years?
Yep.
What are some of those things that made sense for us to bring back? Let's lean into some of that history. It is very much a new era, and there is a higher level of professionalism, but what can we dip back into that was the soul of this club? And so we did that with some of our confetti celebrations after post-match wins. We've done that, with our pink scarf moment, and we really sat down and we found ways to enhance the experience. We brought in a new PA announcer that's on the field that we're slowly integrating more and more as he gets more comfortable into the experience. We sat down with our supporters to get to know what were some of the key chants that they wanted to execute on. What were some of the moments really important to them? And we collaborated on trying to grow some of these moments. So they're all very new, but we're seeing some of the buildup, whether it's our call and response after a player scores. I think, this weekend with night scoring, it was probably our strongest call and response. And that's just going to grow the more goals we score and the more games we play.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's can be really complex. So like we're doing this and this. Sometimes it can be as simple as having conversations with supporters and going, hey, what are your couple key chants of the game? We want to make sure that we're highlighting you, that we're just not playing music over you.
Yeah,
we want to play music and hype the crowd up at the right times, but we also want to give the supporters the platform to drive that match day experience. It's one of the things that's most unique about coming to a soccer game and that differentiates you. And sometimes it can be as simple as having a conversation and going, great, at this point, we're going to lower the music so that you guys are the focus, and that's it.
It's finding what time they march in so that our social team and our content team can go out there and show them some love, spotlight the work that they're doing, and making sure that we cover them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I promised this conversation earlier when I mentioned the Vegas Origins kit, and I think it's a fun thing to peel back the curtain on a little bit. You were centrally involved, or VP of Marketing Victor Schwenke was centrally involved, a couple of other people within the organization in designing the two kits, the Downtown Gold kit, which is our home black kit, and then the Vegas Origins kit. What is the process of designing a kit? How does this come to life from the computer screen?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a number of different kit designs, going back to my time in Charlotte to now here in Las Vegas, and it's a fun process. Honestly, it's a lengthy process. That's what people don't understand, particularly in Major League Soccer. You're talking about 2+ years in advance. Here, our timelines aren't quite that long, but it is a lengthy process.
There are still kits in Charlotte FC that have yet to come out that you've worked on.
Yes.
So you have inside information.
Yes.
And that's how long it is, because you've been here for a little bit now.
Exactly.
So,
it's a process for us, kind of taking a step back. We always want to make sure that we're producing something that means something. So there is a story. So we sit down as a leadership team, and we said, what is the story that we want to tell? What are we leaning into this year? And so for us, when it comes to these two kits, we sat down and we went back to our pillars. Vegas first. All right, we want to centralize the story around Vegas. What story do we want to tell? And we kept focusing on this dichotomy of the two Vegases. There is the glow, the sex appeal, the lights, the tourism, everything you think about as an outsider when you think about Vegas, the downtown, the casinos, right? And that's where we kind of landed with our downtown gold kit. And then you have the grit, the gritty Vegas, the downtown Vegas, the real Vegas, the origins of Las Vegas being founded on the dirt roads, the railroads, the gritty, the history behind the scene, everything that kind of started it all. And so we looked at it as two parallels, your grit and your glow.
Yeah.
And so
even to the present day as well, right? Like even to now in 2025, you have the glow of Las Vegas. The tourists come in and they see the flashing neon signs and they stay at the fancy hotel. But then you have the grit of people that live and they work here. You have a lot of shift workers, a lot of people working night shifts. And that's like a real backbone of what this city is. And so it's both the origins of the city and then also like where we are today as a city.
100%.
So,
And so we really leaned into that story. We shared that story with Hummel. We gave them a couple designs through a mood board, old photos, vintage photos, shots of downtown Vegas, and colors. We talked about colors. We share that mood board. And then from there, they come to us with concepts. And then it's kind of nitty gritty from there where we start talking about concepts we like, concepts we don't like. We start sharing images from kits around the world that we want them to kind of lean into, not necessarily from a design standpoint, but more just an aura. Like this is kind of our look and feel that we want to replicate. And so it's a really collaborative process until we get to this place where we're really happy, both with the storytelling, but then visually. We wanted to take a step forward as a brand where we kind of eliminate a lot of the gimmicks. We've talked about removing some of the gimmicks that have just a different way of operating, right? Yeah. Like this club had been so gimmick heavy, everything down to the kits. And so we wanted to enhance the brand. We wanted to create something that both told that story, but visually was going to be something a little bit more aesthetic, a little bit more trendy, kind of on par with some of the best kits around the world that you see dropping. Something that was versatile, that you could wear in a work office. Yeah. You could wear on a night out, or you could wear at a football match. And so I was really happy with where we landed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think kit culture is a big part of your personal life as well, like taking away the business side of things. I mean, you wear a lot of kits around the office. I feel like I've never seen you wear the same kit twice in this office. You've always got a story behind a kit, and so it's got to be a little bit of a personal passion project as well, getting to design kits that get put out and people buy.
Yeah, for sure. Again, huge football fan, but kits, big part of my life, big part of my collecting. Mm-hmm. I'm huge on just beautifully aesthetic kits that tell a story. But then, of course, I've got a very extensive Lazio collection. Yeah. So getting to work on this, it is a passion project. I like to think I can lean into my history as a collector and kind of knowing some of the kits that have performed really, really well. So it's been a lot of fun for us, and I hope our fans like it. Yeah,
I think for me, it's the premium details that make things stand out. It's the foil on sponsors. It's the diamond on the cuff. Those little things are what can elevate a kit. The monochrome logo versus the full color logo. It's those sorts of choices that will elevate a kit to the next level. So nice job on that. We're running up on time. Let's close it out here with one final one. So in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever time frame you want, what's something that would make you look at the state of the club and be proud of the part that you played in building it to that point? Where do you see this going?
Man, that's such a good question. there's a lot of things that I could like plant my flag and be really, really happy about when it's all said and done, or 3 to 5 years down the line. I think for us, we think about that same timeline falling in line with where USL wants to take this thing.
With Division One coming in.
Division One, I think for us, undoubtedly, like our full intent is to be in Division One.
Yep.
Whatever the name of it ends up being, like our plans are to be in that division. That means our stadium plans, right? Having a proper stadium that, again, Las Vegas can be really proud of, that we can be proud of, that sets a new standard in this league. I think when I think back to 3 to 5 years and where can we be as a club, I think those two things. Are we in the top division, and do we have a beautiful home that our fans can be really proud of, that we can create an atmosphere? Because that's I guess if I'm adding 3 things, it is the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's building on that. And we've seen really tremendous growth in the handful of months we've been here, but it's that continued growth. It's building on the atmosphere that we can say is the best atmosphere in USL, and not hide from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just building block on building block. Those types of transformations and changes don't happen overnight. You have to do the hard work, the cold calls, what goes back to your start as an unpaid intern in this industry. And that's how you get to that end goal. So that's as good a place to end as any. So next up, your Las Vegas Lights are traveling to Kentucky to match up with Lexington SC. That game is on Saturday. You can tune into our broadcast partners to catch that match. We'll catch you next week to preview the Open Cup match and the league match, 2 home matches next week. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
It's gonna fall.